What's up YouTube? My name is Matt and today I'm going to be sharing with you guys a pretty special video. Now I've made a bunch of budget builds in the past, $300 build, $200 build, even a $100 build, but the point of those were to create gaming PCs that could run most any games including AAA titles at 1080p. Now something I haven't done yet is try to build a PC for as cheap as possible that will run more popular titles, more mainstream titles like CSGO, League of Legends, and Minecraft for as cheap as possible. And that's what I'm doing today. So let's get to it. So this build consisted of a couple of amazing deals I found over the course of a little over a month. As I've stated in numerous other past videos, the best way to make a gaming PC for as cheap as possible is to buy a pre-built OEM PC like an HP or Dell and upgrade it. So the search began for a base system to upgrade, and I knew if I was going to go ultra cheap, quad-core processors were out of the question, so I began looking for a Core 2 Duo system. For a few weeks, I watched eBay listings until I found the perfect match. What I found was a complete Dell Precision T3400 up for auction that I ended up winning for just under $12. Now, what really was amazing about this deal was the seller was located one town over from me, which allowed me to use eBay's local pickup option, which saved me what would have been at least $10 to $15 in shipping costs. In this system, there's of course an Intel Core 2 Duo processor running at a respectable 3 GHz. Now, this isn't an amazing processor by any means, but as you'll see, for basic gaming with lighter titles, the CPU does a pretty decent job. The system also came with 3 GB of DDR2 RAM, something I decided from the start I'd like to upgrade to 4 GB if possible. In terms of a hard drive, the system came with a 160 GB 7200 RPM Hitachi Dexstar drive, which is plenty of room for our OS and all of the games tested, with plenty of room left over for more games, programs, and files. Powering the system is a Dell branded 500-watt power supply that actually works decently well and even has dual 6-pin PCIe cables for expansion cards, which though I didn't end up needing, I was surprised these were included. So overall, for $12, this full Core 2 Duo system was an amazing find, and even though it did take me a few weeks of searching to find the perfect deal, it was well worth it. Once I had the base system, I figured it was time to get a graphics card. I found a Craigslist listing titled 1 GB VRAM GeForce card listed for $10. After emailing the guy, I found out it was a GT 430. I asked if it worked and he said he was pretty sure, which definitely wasn't making me very confident in the card, so I ended up talking him down to $5, which for a GT 430 was a really good deal. I was taking a slight gamble seeing the guy wasn't 100% sure if it was working, but the gamble paid off because after receiving the card I found it was in perfect working order. So at this point I had spent just under $17 and decided to go for a max budget of $20. I decided to look for a 1 GB stick of DDR2 RAM to upgrade the system. What I found was a guy on Craigslist selling a lot of RAM, and he was selling 1 GB sticks of DDR2 for only $2, which is a pretty good deal. He seemed kind of confused that I only wanted to buy one stick, but it worked out in the end because I ended up with an extra gigabyte of RAM for only $2, bringing the total cost of the system to a little under $20. So with all the parts in hand, it was time to start piecing everything together. The first thing I noticed when I received the base system was how dirty and dusty it was. When I initially got it, I booted it up to make sure it was working before doing anything to it, and to my surprise, the PSU fan let out a plume of dust, which at first I thought was smoke. Luckily, the power supply didn't burst into flames, it was just very dusty. So I brought it down to the garage and began cleaning it and blowing it out with air, which took a while, and even after I finished, it still wasn't as clean as I would have liked it, but it was acceptable. At this point, I figured it would be a good idea to change out what was probably 8 or more year old thermal paste. The heatsink, which is a behemoth piece of aluminum, attaches with a pretty neat latching method and then with 2 screws. With this done, it was time to install the RAM and GPU. The RAM just slotted into place like normally, and the GPU inserted into the slot by opening this pretty cool swinging PCIe lock. I slotted the card into place, then swung the lock shut. At this point, the system was fully ready for the operating system and games. Like I said in the intro, this PC is meant for more mainstream, lighter titles, and those are exactly what I tested. The games I decided to benchmark were CSGO, League of Legends, Minecraft, and I even threw in Overwatch, a slightly more demanding game, to see if it could run at all. So I started out with League of Legends, a very well optimized game that's very easy to run. This PC had no problem playing it at 1080p very high settings at well above 60 FPS. I was averaging in the low 70s, never even getting close to going below 60, which provided a really good playing experience with great graphics and great frame rates. The next title I tested was Minecraft, which is definitely more CPU intensive than GPU intensive, so I was slightly worried that the older Core 2 Duo in the system wasn't going to keep up. But at 1080p, fancy graphics with 6-chunk render distance, I got a 60 FPS average doing everything but blowing up a bunch of TNT. I wouldn't go trying to play with shaders or anything, but Minecraft 1080p 60 FPS is very doable on this system, which was kind of surprising. Moving on to CSGO, which I originally thought was going to be the most intensive game this PC could play, I again shot for 60 FPS because in CSGO, fluid frame rates will always trump better graphics. To achieve a 60 FPS average, I had to play at 1080p with everything set to low. This still looked decent and provided me with an experience where I still felt I could be competitive, and I didn't feel like I was at any disadvantage because of the system I was playing on. Moving on to the last game I tested, which is Overwatch. Unlike the other 3 games tested, Overwatch is a pretty new and pretty intensive game. I honestly didn't think I was going to get a playable experience at any settings, but lowering the resolution to 720p and putting the graphical settings to low, I actually surprisingly got a playable experience. I averaged in the low to mid 30s with a very infrequent drops into the upper 20s, which though not ideal, after some getting used to, I was able to remain relatively competitive. The graphics looked absolutely terrible at this resolution and settings, but it was playable, and in a fast-paced game like Overwatch, that's all many people care about. So as you can see, this PC is able to play lighter mainstream titles at 1080p 60 FPS, which I honestly wasn't sure if it was going to be able to do. It was even able to play a relatively new title, Overwatch, which was really surprising to me and makes me wonder what other newer titles this thing might be able to run. So conclusion time. This video was in no way, shape, or form meant to be a guide. This was simply me showing that with a little time and effort, you can build an ultra cheap gaming PC that can play most of the mainstream titles fairly well. I'll be the first to admit that I did get lucky on most if not all of these finds, but honestly if I were to search again I could find similar or even better deals. It's just a matter of being persistent and knowing what you're looking for. I've been trying to make videos to help you guys be able to find good deals on used hardware too, with videos like my how to build a gaming PC for under $200 for AAA title games video, and I may make a how to build a gaming PC under $100 for CSGO, League of Legends, and Minecraft. So definitely let me know if you'd be interested in that video. So yeah guys, I hope you enjoyed this video because I definitely enjoyed making it. If you did, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and consider subscribing for more PC related content. And as always, this is Matt from Tech by Matt, signing out.